is anything, how to negotiate with the other agent. Sometimes what happens is we're just an awfully nice bunch of people and we try to get along and we're not realizing that we are professionals and this is a business and that Haley, this is like we set it up because this is so perfect of how you end up with, I'm trying to get along, I'm trying to do the right thing. And the next thing I know, I've got myself into a major jam. And there's a lot of what we say and do with other agents that we need to have an awareness that this is a business and you are representing someone else. The only difference between us and lawyers, we do what lawyers do in other states.
Right.
We're either lucky or unlucky that we get away with that because in most other states, lawyers have taken over this entire negotiation. There's a reason for that because their brains go into that. They've been trained to say, I've got to think of the worst case scenario and remember that I'm representing my people. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today was when we're negotiating, how do we keep in mind, it's like playing chess. I don't play chess because I'm not smart enough to play chess, but if I did play, I understand the concept, outsmart the other guy, right? And that's kind of where we are, be a very nice person and be your charming little self and outsmart the other guy. So always keep in mind that you're in a chess game. This is not your new best friend. I convince them that they're my new best friend, but I do understand they are not, that I am playing my game and I'm aware of what's going on.
So, and just let me touch base with you, Bobbi. So you're suggesting that we can play nice and we can be all bubbly and fun with our little peers in the industry, but at the end of the day, we have responsibility to our client. And that responsibility includes kind of navigating the negotiations with the other individual. And I think that I kind of fall into that category. I'll be honest, I don't like doing other agents' jobs, and that's the perfect part. I actually won't and don't, and if somebody misses a deadline or somebody misses something, it's usually, I'm okay with it. Is that kind of what you're suggesting is there's a duty here, a responsibility to our client.
Yeah, and sometimes I guess what I'm saying is that one of the things that we do is sing like a canary. We start to talk to the other agent and we immediately start telling the truth. Well, yes, but the Johnsons absolutely have to be out of here on the 19th, because if they're not out on the 19th, the other house gets sold and then and now we told everything. Now who has the power?
Right.
You just gave the other side the power. And when the other side says, yes, but I want, like the one that just happened to Haley, well, we're going to re-inspect that. Uh-oh, now who had the power? If I had done that, who had the power?
Right.
I've told them everything. I don't need to tell them any of that information. I don't need to, so I can keep it to myself. But one of the things that NAR says is that 99% of buyers think that negotiation skills are very important. What this tells us is when we're working with our buyers, they do think it's important that you have an ability, excuse me, to negotiate for them. And I think as an aside, we need to make sure that they understand that you did negotiate for them, because most of them come away, I guess the statistics are about 44% of those people are disappointed in the negotiation skills of their agent.
Well, or what you just mentioned though, Bobbi, is the lack of communication as to negotiation. Are we even letting our clients know what we're doing for them? Do they even know that we're fighting or that we're negotiating?
Right. And so I think that that's something that we want to, just make a little star and go, as long as I'm out there selling myself, why don't I sell a skill that I have? How about if I was advertising or I was in some way trying to attract buyers, since I already know that that's what comes out in the NAR thing. that they want negotiation skills. So why don't you tell them that's something that you do?
The survey. So I'll share this. I get a lot of agent questions, and one of the most popular questions I get, and maybe Haley, you can attest, is usually, Jared, what do you think? What do you think I should do? And I usually respond every time with, it doesn't really matter what I think you should do. You should be asking your client what they're willing to do. Like, what does your client want to do? And I think that that's kind of, what, for me, I'm usually like, it doesn't really matter what I think, like I would tell them to pound sand, but my client gave them everything. So I'm going to do exactly what they told me to do. Like, I don't complicate it. I don't make it, this isn't about me. This isn't what I think.
It also says that only 44% of buyers felt their agent did a better job, and 37% of buyers felt that their agent negotiated a better price. So those are just interesting facts that you need to be aware of, that there's a big percentage of people that don't think we're doing what they thought we would do. They're dissatisfied most of the time with our negotiation skills. So that's what I wanted to talk about today, is how do we improve that so that we can tell them that we did things? How do we negotiate and negotiate better? My objective when I get done working a deal is I want the other agent to think that we are great friends, and have no idea that I negotiated you out of everything.
Seems fair.
And so there's ways to do that, and that's what I was wanting to pass on. How do you do that? And there's certain strategies. One of the hardest things about teaching negotiations is, the hardest part about negotiations is shutting up, knowing when to shut up, knowing that we're not in a race. The hardest part about sales, I guess, is learning to turn the table, to turn it around so that I get them to say what I want them to say. Because when people say it, they don't argue with themselves.
Right.
They argue with me, but they don't argue with themselves. So if I can get you to come up with the solution that I want you to come up with, you don't argue with me, right? Because you think it was your idea. We do the same thing in sales when we're talking about, was Bruce, right? That Bruce, you were talking about working with this client who had the idea, I should wait or I should do something else. Let's back up to that stage and say, okay, so what if we said to the client, so Bob, what I'm hearing you say is you just want to make sure that you don't screw anything up and you get the timing of real estate right. Is that what I'm hearing you say? Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because that is what he's saying, right? I don't know whether to do it now or whether I ought to do it in the spring or whether I ought to do it in 2 years, right?
That was Greg.
That was Greg.
Yeah.
Greg. Well,
Yeah.
okay.
Anyways.
I'll blame you then, Greg. You're on the hot seat. So what I'm saying is, do you understand? If I can turn it around, and is that not what I'm hearing? That's what his concern is. Now, if I ignore his concern and I just come back and say, but Greg, the interest rates now are this, and if we wait 6 months, I've read that they're going to be that, and that would be even more, and your payment would be. Do you see how I'm doing all logic? Right? We're doing all logic. And now the other guy's going to fight with me because he has to defend his point of view. I don't want him to defend his point of view. I want him to adopt my point of view, and then I'm going to agree with him. And we'll get it done my way. And that's what we're talking about in negotiations. We negotiate all the time. Selling is a form of negotiation. So when I'm with the other party, what's the negotiation supposed to be about? It's working with the other party to get a mutual satisfaction. If they get their way, they're satisfied, right?
Right.
And what I'm going to do is convince them that my way is their way. I'm going to convince them that I'm agreeing with them. So when I get done, they're going to think it was their idea and that I'm agreeing with them. So shall we use Haley's situation with the
radon.
radon as an
Yep.
example of that?
Yep.
So it sounds like the other agent. It sounds like what you're saying is you just want to make sure that this radon is safe and brought down to a normal level. Is that what I'm hearing you say? Obviously, she's going to say yes. And when she says that, so what I think I'm hearing you say is we need to, and then fill in what she's saying and what you're trying to accomplish and get her to come around to agree with you. Is that making any sense?
You're just trying to you're acknowledging what they're wanting. You're providing a solution.
Right.
And this,
And what I'm doing then is I'm coming around to telling them what I want them to say. So what I'm hearing you say is you just want to be safe. So if we did this, would that make them feel comfortable? Does it sound like I'm cooperating with you?
right.
And all I'm doing is planting the idea that you're going to get along, you're going to do it my way. But I've never said that you're doing it my way. So let's go on to a couple of other things because we'll come up with some better. I didn't really like the way that one was flowing, so we'll come up with some other ones. So rather than approaching negotiations from an adversarial position, and you've all been through this, haven't you, where you've got the other agent on the phone who thinks that their job is to adversarial negotiation, right? And they're threatening or they're
Combative.
So we don't want to be that because all that creates is more. So,
You faded again.
Lost you.
Lost you.
oh, bad microphone again.
Gotcha.
No. Let me see if it's on here. No.
We can hear you great now.
Okay, well, maybe I'm just not close enough to this thing.
I think that's
Okay.
yeah, there you go.
Wasn't that far? So we were talking about approaching things from an adversarial position. That is one of the worst negotiation strategies, because as soon as we get adversarial, then the other side has nothing to do but fight and will fight back with us. And don't we all act like children sometimes? Like, anybody show your hands? Anybody married? Anybody has been married? Do we ever act like children? That's right. You know, as soon as it gets adversarial, then we both turn into children and nobody gets anywhere.
Well, then it just gets petty.
Yeah, it does. And then we get into one of those, which I've taught in Power Series, and you all know this one, the principle of the thing. And as soon as we get into the principle of the thing, the thing is probably pretty much screwed.
Right.
We're done now.
Right.
Now you need somebody else involved because you're doomed. So the list that I have, excuse me, people that we negotiate with are FSBOs, expired listings, a new person for an appointment, buyers writing an offer, buyer agency. We're going to get into those negotiations here before long when that lawsuit's settled, probably. We negotiate with our sellers to list with us. We negotiate with our sellers to pay our commission and to take the offer, and we negotiate with the other agent. So there's a lot of negotiation that goes on, and it seems like it's the left out part of real estate where nobody teaches you how important it is to be a negotiator. You are a negotiator. And yet, when was the last time you learned what are negotiation skills? How do I go about being? You're a professional negotiator and nobody taught you how to negotiate anything.
That wasn't in the classes, huh?
Wasn't in the classes. And so there we're turned loose, and according to our own ability to either figure it out or learn it the hard way, we end up either good negotiators or bad negotiators, but almost nobody ever taught you how to successfully be a negotiator. one of the things I would say that is an important fact is that when you're the negotiator, you have got to get a hold of your negative emotions. The other side has maybe done something that just irritates the daylights out of you, or the seller, the buyer, the whoever it is just about on your last nerve. If you allow that to show, you will lose the negotiations. I'll guarantee you will lose the negotiations. So somewhere in your psyche has to come, put your grown-up hat on and say, as soon as I get off this call, or as soon as I get away from you, I'm going to put an evil curse on you. But for now, I'm just going to patiently listen to.
Well, and that's, but what you're mentioning though is like what I would perceive as like true professionalism. Like if you're a professional, you shouldn't be bothered by things. Like if composure should be part of being a professional.
Well, you can be bothered. You just can't show anybody you're bothered till you hang up that phone or get away from those people. Then whatever list of obscenities you'd like to go through, you're totally on your own, have a shot at them.
Right.
Quietly in your car by yourself. Well, then somebody will shoot you because they think, road rage. Whole different story. That's a different series. I don't do that one in this class.
Right.
So your negotiation style, what you've discovered is that what you want to be is collaborative. You appear to be collaborative. And what I mean by that is when we start the negotiations, it will appear that I agree with everything you say. It might be that I'm appearing to listen to everything you say. So I guess it was Greg that was talking about his guy, and he's talking about, could I wait? Should I do this? I'm going to listen to him like he's making sense, right? We've all got those people, buyers, sellers, they're all and I got to start out with them making sense. Maybe the analogy that I could use is you set me up on a call, a buyer call. And so this particular guy says to me, so I'm talking to him and he's really very friendly. And he says to me, yeah, sure enough, he does want to sell his townhouse, or I guess it's a condo. He does want to sell his condo. And I said, so about how much were you thinking the thing would probably sell for? He says 800,000. Well, there's a snowball's chance. I mean, this is a completely ridiculous number. What it would really sell for was probably about 425. So he said 800,000. Now, inside my brain, I already know it's not going to sell for 800,000. But do I fight with him?
No.
The answer is no. I don't tell him that it's not going to sell for 800,000. I don't try to argue him out of 800,000. I don't do anything with 800,000 except go, okay, well, I'll need to swing by and take a look at it. Oh, well, no, we don't need to. And I said, well, you mean, so what you're telling me, what I'm hearing you say is you want my guy to pay $800,000 for your condo without anybody looking at it? Is that what I'm hearing you say? At any rate, my point is I didn't argue. I finally got over there, and it turns out that actually he's hilarious because he enjoys doing that to realtors and watching them come out of it and watch him turn into squirrel bait. And that's part of his fun. Now I'm probably going to work with him in the future, and we're not going to sell it for 800,000. Or if we are, I just need about a 20-year listing.
Right.
Which is also fun with me. I don't care if he wants to be on the market 20 years, not my problem. I'll put it in my will, give it to my son.
You always get to say you have a listing.
I say I got a listing.
Right.
What do I care? Right? It
Right.
doesn't do anything. I mean, he's the one that'd have to open up the house and show it for 20 years. Make any difference to me. That's what I'm talking about, not fighting with people. Oftentimes when they're being ridiculous, what we do is we jump in and get ridiculous too. Tell them why they can't have what they want.
We start like getting defensive and trying to, well, no, I have to prove why I'm right. I'm not even listening.
Right. Anybody, raise your hand again if you've ever been married. Yeah, right. Yeah. What happens when you try to prove you're right?
No, everybody stops listening.
It goes bad, doesn't it?
Right.
Oh, it doesn't mean I don't do it. It just means that it goes bad.
Right.
So collaborative, you are looking like you're concerned for their needs. I really care about what's happening to the other guy. The willingness to exchange or trade, but when I'm trading information, I am really cautious. We need to be cautious about what bullets am I putting in the other guy's gun, so that if something goes wrong, did I let him know that my seller is on a short time period, that my seller has another house, and if this one doesn't go through, they're not going to get their new home. You see how just talking, chatting, I just put all the bullets in the other guy's gun.
Well, and me trying to create like a sense of urgency now can turn into me losing my deck later, you know, having no leg to stand on and kind of, you know. Well, and I'll be honest with you. And if anybody has ever worked with me, Darla, you're on this call. It's always fun. I just don't talk to agents. Like I don't call you. I don't talk. Like, what are we talking about? Like, I don't have anything to share with you. Like, I'm usually kind of here's where we're at. Here's where you're at. Like, are we over disclosing? Are we over talking?
Yeah, you know why I don't do that?
Why?
Because I can get the other side to sing like a canary and put all the bullets in my gun.
Right. And that's all you're
They think
suggesting.
I'm your new best friend, and I will ask you things like, so where are the Johnsons going? Oh my God, that sounds beautiful. They're going there? Whoa, so what are they buying? And the other agent, who now thinks that they're my new best friend, sings like a canary. Oh, well, they found this house and they've got that, and then they're doing that, and they tell me everything that's going on. Now, who has all the bullets in the gun?
Right.
I do. Because if anything goes wrong at the last minute, I know what power I'm working with.
Right.
I know that they have to make this move. I know that the son is already enrolled in school and he has to start here, and they're excited about this, and it must be, and this has to happen. I know everything because they just gave me all the power, which is what I was looking for in the first place. It's not that I'm not going to use it against him until it's used against my people. That if my people don't come up with another 10,000, or if my people don't do something, if I need an extension, I mean, I have power. So yes, I absolutely talk to them like they're my new best friend. And Jared, whether you like it or not, I would have been on the phone and made friends with you too.
I believe that, Bobbi.
So let's talk about combative negotiators. Do we ever get them? Is this thing on? You know what? This is the trouble with being in Zoom. Like, you're probably all filing your nails.
Is this thing on? Is this working?
Just Jared and me talking to ourselves. At any rate, so let's talk about when we've got a combative negotiator. And so this means buyers, sellers, other agents, anything, right? Here's what that means. When they are combative, it means they don't trust. So keep that in mind. Something you've said, something you've done, something, they don't trust. So
Right.
What do I have to do? I have to go back and get trust. See if I can't get them to trust me. How do I get them to trust me? By listening to them, not by telling them they're wrong, not by telling them that you don't know what you're talking about. And when do we do that? That we don't really say those words, but that's the message we give. When the buyer says, well, I'm not going to buy now because the interest rates are too high. And my response is, the interest rates aren't too high. They're likely to go even higher in a couple of months. From what I've read, it's going to get worse. Now think about it. That's a true statement. Isn't that right?
Right.
the other hand, did I not just argue with you and tell you you're a fool and you don't know what you're talking about?
Yep.
How do you usually react when somebody says you're a fool and you don't know what you're talking about?
Shut down.
Shut down. Do they now trust me? No,
Mm,
because
they're not-
right? They wouldn't have said what they said if they didn't think they were right. They did think they were right. And so when I tell them, no, you're not right, you're wrong, doesn't that creates a barrier between us, doesn't it?
Which is probably what got you there in the first place, was being combative with them the entire time. The reason they're defending themselves is probably because you haven't been listening.
Exactly. It's a whole listening thing.
Your mic
Lost
went
you.
out again.
Say that again, Lenny.
Gotcha.
Your mic went out again. Oh, it did for a second. Seems to fade.
Oh. All right, guys, look, I have this handy dandy, look, see, doesn't that look?
Wow.
Looks
Okay.
legit.
Yeah, it just
If I drop
fades.
right
It
into
seems
does it
to
do anything?
go in and out.
It's not doing anything, right?
No, I don't.
Now,
Well, but at least it looks good. So where was I? Oh, I was
Just-
talking about being combative. They're seeing you as being combative, and that's why they don't trust you.
hold on, wait. Are you
Back and get
suggesting,
that trust? Don't lose that trust.
Bobby, are you suggesting that when we find ourselves with a combative person, it's probably because we're not listening and being combative?
Yes, and we don't realize that we are because we think we're right. I'm the agent, I'm the boss, I'm the one that's going to show you the right way. Follow me.
Right.
And I'm not paying attention to the fact that the other guy thought he was right.
As well.
And at first appreciate that the other guy thought he was right. The interest rates are too high. Well, you know what? If you say that, that's because in your mind they are. It's better to wait till spring. So let's take that one. It's better to wait till spring. You know what? If I was in your shoes, I'd think exactly the same thing. Now I'm on your side, right?
Right.
I bring you around to my side of the table, which is the only problem with waiting till spring is that's what everybody else is. Now you have all the competition. So now you really have to shine because there's you and a whole bunch of everybody else. Right now, there's not so many people to compete with.
You know, but what you said though, your little tagline so interesting, because you said, you know, if I was in your shoes, and then you just repeat what they say. If I was in your shoes, I would definitely think rates are too high. If I was
I
in
would
your
think
shoes,
exactly
I
the
definitely
same
think
thing.
spring. Right. I mean, I definitely think.
Right.
But what you're doing is you're actually are putting yourself in their shoes.
Right. And that's why I'm saying start there.
Right.
With if I were in your shoes, that's exactly what I would think. Because now the two of us are on the same side of the table.
I am in your
can't
shoes.
Get them to come around to my side of the table till I first must go to their side of the table.
There you go.
I agree with you. It sounds like, and then I'll repeat what they just told me. So remember, that's how I'm building trust. And if I'm getting combative people, it's because they don't trust me. They don't trust me. So what have I done? I don't know. But I need to get to their side in order to get them to trust me. And then I need to uncover their interest and their needs. Why are they saying this? Well, they're afraid of something, right? They're concerned about something. And I need to listen. People will listen to me if I'm listening to them.
Absolutely.
don't questions work fairly well when they're saying something, you qualify what they're saying by asking them questions?
Absolutely, Lanny. He's exactly right.
Give
So
that guy a
what I'm
scar.
hearing you say is you think this, right? Yes, that's what I think.
Well,
So
and
if you could
or-
get 'em, and that's where that if I could, would you comes in. So what I'm hearing you say is you feel like the interest rates are too high right now. So it sounds like you're saying if I could get you a lower interest rate, you'd want to move forward. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
I suggest differently. You're reiterating, well, what happens when what happens when the interest rates lower? Pose that question. Therefore, competition amps up, and he's going to be paying more for his house losing any potential value he gains from the drop in interest rate.
Yeah, and here's what I would do with that, Lanny, because you're exactly right. You can use that one. And what you'd say is, now I would, here's me
Yeah.
rephrasing it. So what I'm hearing you say, Bob, is that if the interest rates went down, that would be a more robust market. And then we'd probably have a whole lot of competition, and
Yeah.
then we'd end up having to pay more because everybody jumped right back in. You're right, Bob. That doesn't sound like a very good idea. You see, I've completely switched the narrative, and Bob thinks I'm agreeing with him on stuff he didn't.
I usually throw out the question, well, what happens when the interest rates lower, and let him scratch his head.
Yeah.
So basically, and then he comes back with the actual answer.
Right. And here's the thing, if you're on the right track, because if you get them, as you know, because you're experienced, that if you get them to say something, and that's my only point, is if I can get them to say it, they don't argue with themselves.
Right.
Well, also you're getting
With me, if I try to logic them into
proposing them
something.
using their brain, which they stopped doing the minute they said, I'm waiting for interest rates to drop.
Right. Because, and why would they? I mean, really, that this isn't what they do for a living. So how they're just thinking of themselves. If it would drop, it would be easier for me. So I think one of the things that brings up is that here's what Lanny and I are both saying, is that negative emotions end up with the way you're dealing with the other side. If you are bossing, authoritarian, demanding, then that's what I'm going to get in return. So we're both looking at this as to how to get the other guy to say what I want him to say. I want him to have it be his idea, because as soon as it's his idea, he'll go along with me. As long as it's mine and I'm pushing something, he will end up fighting with me. And the same thing happens when we're negotiating with the other agent on getting this deal together. As soon as I get combative, he will return combative. When he gets combative, I have to not be combative no matter what. Let me look at this.
I think this is good stuff because, I mean, if we looked at most every client we have, buyer or seller, just from that perspective, there's usually something that's held them back from doing it. Like I didn't show up and this was the first time you thought like you wanted to buy, or the first time you thought you wanted to sell. And usually, it kind of takes like navigating it, like listening. Okay, it sounds like you've been waiting because of these things, or you're going to continue to wait because you don't want to move because the kids are in school, or what have you. It seems like we're always navigating and negotiating, every step of the way with our buyers and sellers. Just from the beginning of even breaching the conversation of real estate.
Well, I think it all boils down to what the other guy's saying is, I'm afraid. Would you please lead me? Would you help me? Would you listen to me? Here's what I'm afraid of. And too many times we come back with an argument instead of dealing with it, your fear, your concern.
Right.
You just want to know, I'm afraid. And you know what? If you were entering this market, you would be afraid of the interest rates too. I'm
Right.
afraid. What happens? I've heard 2008, 2009, everything crashed and people lost their houses. And oh my God, I don't want to take every penny I've got, sink it into a house, only to discover the house is worth half the price and I've just lost everything and my family's doomed and my children won't eat. And right? That's what he's afraid of. So instead of saying you're an idiot and that's not going to happen, how about if I understand that, in your world, that's what's happening.
Right.
Now, how about if I lead you out of that world into a safer spot?
If I could, would you?
If I could. Right. So negotiation gambits was one of the things that I wanted to talk about. And these are gambits, just means strategies. What do I do with the strategies? A couple of things that I think are important is that knowing that the more you talk, the more likely you are to sabotage your own efforts. Now, this is where Jared is absolutely correct in his style. He stays off the phone. He stays out of those conversations because he knows if he talks too much, he loses. He loses power by communication. He's not like me interested in communicating, finding out where the bullets are or getting them to give me more bullets. He's saying, I'm not handing out any bullets. That's all there is to it. That this is a professional thing. It stays on paper and we handle it that way.
Emotionless.
Right. And I am just a different theory. So obviously each one of you can figure out which one works better for your personality. What do you think you want to do? Which way do you want to flow? He says stay out of it because he's right. The more you talk, the more you are giving away information. When I do it, I'm not really, I am talking, but I'm talking to gather information, not to give information. So I am aware of what I'm doing. But you're not going to get any information from either one of us, is what he's saying. His way is just not to talk to you, and mine is to talk to you until you give me your information.
Right.
But just knowing that the more you talk, you're giving away information. I think probably there isn't one of us here that hasn't sold some houses that you went in where the seller's at home. And I don't know about you guys, but when I walk in and the seller's home, and I tell my buyers this, if the seller's home, I'm going to ditch you guys. You can look at a house by yourself because I'm going to get all the information out of the seller that I can get. And we've probably all done that where we've gotten information that you go, oh my God, your agent would have a fit if they knew you just told me that, because they think we're buddies. And they don't realize I'm dangerous. I'm the wolf. Don't talk to the wolf, you idiot.
You
But
don't let that blouse fool you.
that's right. There's a wolf under here. The wolf will get you. So I ask questions till the other side gives away their position.
Motivation there.
Pardon me?
Yeah, you basically, well, so but what you're touching on, and Lanny said it too, though, is the person that asks the most questions usually wins.
Yes, questions are the key. So
Right.
if anybody's writing anything down, that's one of the good ones to write down. Questions are the
Qualify.
key. What'd you say, Lanny?
Questions qualify.
Yeah.
Well, and
And-
it doesn't matter who you're interacting with, whether it's a client, another individual in the profession, or anything. But the more questions we ask, the more it uncovers. And it should be like giving you more questions to be asking. I mean,
Qualifies a statement. Just because
Because-
someone says it doesn't mean they believe in it. It could be they heard it.
right?
And more often they heard it.
No, absolutely, right.
And the takeaway is that questions are power. Listening is power. So, but once you've asked a question, shut mouth. Listen to the answer. Shut mouth. Everybody taking notes? Shut mouth. Listen to the answers. That gives away information. And that's why Lanny's talking about, you've been in the business a long time. I can tell, I don't know you, but I can tell that you have been, because he knows asking the questions are where the power is.
Yeah,
Bruce,
we used to get phone calls. Someone called, I'm looking for a huge backyard. Well, what's a huge backyard?
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah, because the questions, that's where we get our information. And then the gambits that I use in working on negotiations. So this is where you get into professional negotiation strategies. And there's only a few that I use in real estate, but I use them a lot. And the one of my favorites is good guy, bad guy. Okay. So good guy, bad guy. So if I'm talking to let's make the scenario, I'm talking to my buyer and I want them to come up with a better offer. So rather than me tell them that it's my idea that they get a better offer, I'm going to make a bad guy. And the bad guy is probably, it's never the seller. So note to self, it is never the seller. I don't make the seller the bad guy. I don't make the buyer the bad guy. I make the other agent the bad guy. I agree with you, Bob. I think maybe we should offer them $125,000 low just to see if they'll take it. But here's my concern. Once I've pissed off the other agent, and that will surely do it, we're probably done negotiating. So maybe we should come up with another. One of the ones that I always use on that is, here's the number we're looking for, Bob. I don't mind making them mad. Making them mad doesn't bother me at all. But I want them to do this. I want them to look at your offer and say, no, nope, not gonna do it, not. All right, fine. That's the number I'm looking for. Now, $125,000 low, let me tell you what that one does. It just pisses off their agent. Their agent will talk them out of working with you altogether. Do you see how I created good guy, bad guy? I don't know anything about the other agent. I don't know what they do, but I do know that this is going to piss people off and I'm probably not going to get anywhere. So my negotiation is to turn the other agent into the bad guy. If I'm negotiating with, it's the inspection items. It's not the seller won't do this, because here's where I'm going with this thing. If I create a fight between the buyer and the seller, I'm probably likely to lose this deal. If I create a negative situation between my buyer and the other agent, I have a chance, don't I? Because the seller can still be a good guy.
Right.
But if I actually talk to the seller, he'd probably let you do that because he seemed like a real nice fella. I've never met the guy. I don't know anything about him, but he seemed like a real nice fella. But that agent, he's a tough one. I'm telling you, I can't get past him. So I'll let him be the bad guy, because if we get mad at somebody, make it the other guy. And I feel the same way if any of us were in a situation where you're negotiating with me and you need good guy, bad guy, fine, I'm not working with these people. I'm the bad guy.
That's
I don't
fine.
care.
Right.
I'll be the bad guy. So what it does is it creates pressure without confrontation. It also creates a situation where there's something to be saved. This is why when we're talking to people, FSBOs, the worst negotiation position you'll ever be in is negotiating for yourself. First of all, I can't use good guy, bad guy, can I?
I mean, you might look crazy.
Yeah, you have to agree with me because I'm really an asshole. See, that's not great. That's not a good one. Don't write that down.
It doesn't roll off the tongue quite as well.
Yeah, it doesn't work. You just confuse people.
They think you're funny, actually.
Maybe. So keep that one in mind. Good guy, bad guy. When you can blame somebody, when you need a bad guy, I'll do that with, maybe it'll be a situation where I've turned either the husband or the wife into the bad guy. Negotiating, saying, I'll bet he'd go along with you because he seemed like a real nice fella, but I'm going to tell you something.
There's usually somebody that isn't.
I don't want to have to tangle with her because I think we're going to lose if she finds out. So here's what I'd do if I were in your shoes. I'd probably, and then I'll offer the solution I wanted to offer in the first place. So keep looking for kinds of things where you can have a good guy, bad guy. And then you always look like the good guy. Because I've never made me the bad guy. I'm not the one that said no. If it was up to me, you could do whatever you wanted, but it's those people.
Bobby, I think this is gaslighting.
Oh, and I'm good at it, huh?
I'm going to call Brian.
It's too late. He's already been gaslighted. He thinks it's his fault. And of course it is.
Well, You're crafty. No, I think, this is all good stuff. But I think what Bobby is really trying to encourage us to do isn't just to have these haphazard conversations. When we put on our agent hat, our realtor hat, are we being tactful? Are we being a professional? Are we looking at this as, we do have duty, we do have a responsibility to our clients. And if we're just loose-lipped and shooting from the hip always, and we think this is fun and games, we're probably missing a chance to really protect our people. And I think by asking questions, putting ourselves actually in their shoes, what I'm hearing you say, or if I was you, should I, if I could, would you? A lot of these things, obviously, Bobbi, you learned these over the last couple of months, right?
Yeah. I just, last Tuesday, I started reading up on this stuff.
Right, you're right, exactly. So this was not like the first time that you've thought of this. This is something that Bobbi uses every time that she interacts with somebody. But what she's doing is putting together like a repertoire, like an arsenal of tools and techniques to actually help her clients and her find herself in the best position. She's finding more clients because she's helping navigate their feelings and helping them get where they want to go. She's closing more deals and getting more contracts accepted because she's putting the pieces together and making it fit and work. She's getting more to the closing table because she's helping keeping it ironed and making sure that everybody's kind of being heard and listened to. All the while, it's kind of your design.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see what I can do to help you keep more deals together, because this is a hard enough business as it is, and losing one is not a whole lot of fun, or losing one you should have had. I just assume you keep them all. One more before we take off, and I know we started late too, so let me throw this one out here because I use this one a lot too. This gambit is called higher authority. The higher authority gambit is, I don't have the authority to make this decision. So then I look like the innocent one. How do I use higher authority? Well, you can imagine I use it a lot when I'm talking to the other agent and they want to negotiate about something. Maybe I've sent over let's pretend. I've sent over a lower offer than they want to take. And the other agent says, well, they can use higher authority on me. What would they do? Boy, I don't think Johnson's they're not going to put up with that. That's way too low. If you don't come in with something higher, this deal's probably dead, right? They just used higher authority. They did not check with Johnson. They haven't shown him the contract. They don't know whether Johnson would take it or not, but I'm going to bet that the other agent doesn't use higher authority on me. They'll say, okay, well, I'll present it and get back to you. Then when they come back, the other agent, let's say she calls me and she says, well, they're going to come back $25,000 higher. Here will be me. First, it's called the flinch. Oh. I think it was up to Mrs. Johnson. She'd probably take that, but Mr. Johnson, I'm telling you, we're dead. We're dead. This deal's probably dead.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to do something else. Can you come back? I mean, just work on this a little bit for me. And, they came back with 5. I could probably get 5, but 25 is, and I've done this one. So here's my manipulation. I said, oh, please help me. I'm old, I'm fat, and I'm cranky, and I don't want to get back in the car and throw some more houses. Please, just see what you can do for me, will you? It's a form of higher authority. What do I do if it's a listing and they want to cut my commission? Well, sometimes, and the flinch is another one that I use, which is, the problem I've got is if I did that, my broker would kill me. He just doesn't allow that. That's not true, is it? I work for myself. I can take whatever I want, or hi, baby, or do nothing. But I'm using the higher authority like somebody else won't let me do it. That's where your power comes in. I've talked to many people that have been the landlord on their own properties. And I've said that is the dumbest thing you can do, is admit that you own the property and you are the landlord, because you cannot use higher authority. If you work for a a corporation or you have a partner, then when the tenant wants something that you don't want to provide, your answer is, oh, I'll tell you what, Bob, if it was up to me, I'd do it. I totally see your point there, but the other guy's going to kill me. I just can't do it. That's what I liked about when I was on site. If you wanted to offer too low for the houses, I couldn't. The corporation, the company wouldn't let me. So think about all the times that you can manufacture a higher authority. Can you manufacture a higher authority and get out of doing what you didn't want to do? So I use that one a lot too.
I mean, but what you're suggesting though is you know, and this is like master negotiation because you're doing it in the moment. You're not waiting till you get a counter and then try and counter a counter. You're doing it in the moment. Like, hey, we're gonna counter back at this. You're in the moment. Like, oh, whoa, ooh, cringe. Oh,
Right.
that actually might work. That actually might work if it wasn't for the wife. Somebody's already tried that, or you know, like, don't bring that to me. Don't do that to me. You know.
Yeah, and I think much of the time, well, it's just like, let me go back to the analogy of the renter. I've had people that are so ego driven that they will not say that they work for somebody else or that somebody else has any authority over them. And
Right.
so they're forced to negotiate. Well, we all know the weakest negotiating position is for ourselves. Right, because when you go for your commission, if you admit that this is entirely up to you, they will negotiate you down. You're a very weak position. So if you can throw it on to, it's not me, it's somebody else who's the boss of me. I mean, when we go into a store and we say, I want to pay less for this thing, the clerk goes, but that's the price of the thing.
It's right.
This isn't my store. I can't do anything about that. That's the price of the thing.
Right.
So we don't even argue with them. And that's the power behind higher authority. So all I'm saying is have your little brain start thinking, where can I use higher authority? Where can I pretend it's not me? So I throw it off. Sometimes it's the broker. A lot of times it's the broker won't let me.
Hey, and hold on, I'm going to touch on that real quick. I actually had the conversation with an agent the other day. I was like, if you have to use me as the excuse why you can't give away the farm on your listing, do it. Hey, I'd love to give you a discount more than I can, but I have to do a minimum of 2.5%. Like, use me as the excuse if you can't stand up for yourself.
Well, several, and I'll just throw this one out there, Jared, I won't do it, but there are several companies that I have done trainings for where it actually is the company policy in Colorado or up by Loveland, the group, Fort Collins group, big company. And they actually do have a policy. Their policy is we don't take a listing for less than 6%. If you take a listing for less than 6%, do not drag it back to this office. You don't work here. We don't accept it. So their agents always get 6% because they walk in and they say, I don't have the authority to do that. It's 6% if you want it listed with the group, period. Right. Discussion. And so they get it. But look at what happens to us. We get kicked around and go, okay, and the next thing you know, you've given away the farm and you're not making anywhere near enough money. So how about if you went into the higher authority and say, you know what, if it's up to me, I would do exactly that.
Right.
But Jared, oh man, you ought to meet this guy.
I'll ask, but I'm telling you, it's probably not going to work.
Right.
Right.
Or if I do, I'm going to have to subtract some services. So what would you like me to give up?
Right. I'm not putting a sign in your yard.
Yeah, what is it we should give up? I mean, I'm just trying to give you some power, and then working with other agents, good guy, bad guy, and higher authority are both really powerful tools in working with your negotiations. So the only reason I tell you that is so that you can sit back and think at each one and say, how can I use higher authority or good guy, bad guy to give me more negotiating power?
There you go. Love it. Good stuff. Hope everybody wrote all that down.
I'm sure they did. I saw them all writing diligently. Oh, yeah.
There you go. So I mean, so Bobby, if you could send us out some highlights, I think this is something that obviously this isn't, practice makes perfect. How about that? And
Well, and that's where I'd love to, when things change or we get bigger or something and we do office kinds of things, this works a whole lot better if we can get into an actual live group and practice some of the things. Like some of you probably had some things go through your brain and said, well, how would you handle this one that I went through or this one that happened? What could we do? Because can you see, my passion is, it's not that I want you to work a whole lot harder. I just want you to screw up less. Let's just not lose the ones we were, you worked too hard to get where you got. And then to end up losing this stupid thing is like, man, that just breaks my little heart.
breaks all of our little hearts and our pocketbook.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So don't work harder, just screw up less. I like it. We lost you again, Bobby.
Oh, well, just screw up less.
There you go.
Do you have
Well, we
noise
appreciate you.
cancellation on that mic?
Sorry, Lanny, what?
You have noise cancellation on that mic or something to that effect?
I have no idea.
I wonder
Lanny,
if,
when it comes to- it just had a one plug-in thing.
okay, somewhere on the app, there might be noise cancellation, which would, if it hears other things, it's gonna go from a ambient sound, so many decibels, it's gonna require you to jump the thing to start picking up a little bit. So some mics have to
Bobby's
block out
on our
wind
tech
noise
team.
and stuff like that. They tend to have something on the microphone that
Lanny,
makes you speak up louder.
Lanny.
Yep.
You know how old I am.
Okay.
Just leave it at that, Lanny. Right. Hey, if you guys need anything, hey,
Computer on, you should be impressed.
if we want to put together a little office live get together session, let's do it for sure. So if you guys are down, let me know. If you guys have any questions, let me know. If you need anything, reach out.
I don't think he means anything, so I'm just gonna go with that.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Bobby.
Thanks, Bobby.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bobby.
Thanks so much.
You bet. Bye,
Thanks for
guys.
thinking.
Thanks for thanking me.